Hey everybody, welcome back to Hardstuck Gold, the series where bad League of Legends players talk about good League of Legends players. Today we have our LPL LCK special where we talk mostly about the LCK like official teams, and we'll get to the LPL, but most of that is rumors so far and players who they, are continuing on from last year. Nothing insane. Well, there's some fun stuff there, but it's not as, concrete as the LCK. Today I'm joined by JJ, a writer at the Game Haus. Say hi.
Hello. How goes it, folks?
I think it's going well because we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about. I guess we'll just jump right into the LCK then. So starting off, Afrika, our favorite team, our collective love of Afrika is going to make this worth watching alone.
Oh
Uh,
boy.
so Afrika came into the year with a bunch of questions. Their 2021 roster was weird, but I don't want to say it failed, but it did.
Something was definitely missing. We can definitely put it that way. Maybe a mid laner,
Yeah,
but something was definitely missing on that Afrika roster. Like the pieces were good, right? Like
yeah,
I think Keen is the best top laner in the LCK, which says a lot because there's a ton of incredible top laners in the LCK. I think Dread is a really good, like early tempo based jungler, and I think that the bot lane of Leo and Lahans was serviceable.
yeah, for
Like
sure.
I think Leo isn't, phenomenal. He's not going to win worlds anytime soon, but I think he is a serviceable AD
For a
carry. So I
midseason
think
pickup, yeah,
yeah, exactly, right. And there's also that because they were playing Bang in spring, and that was, oh, we're not going there.
yeah.
But their main thing coming into the offseason was who are we getting in the mid lane? So much so that we even had our joke, right? That if they renew Fly, we're both getting Fly jerseys at
I'm
this
actually
point.
sad that didn't happen because I totally would have loved my fly jersey. Would have
I
loved it.
would have I would have gotten it too, really, like out of nothing but you know nothing but respect for all these players, but like the reality is something had to change on Afrika unless
Yeah.
they were going to continue being. They were actually, I think they were, considering the changes a couple of other teams made in this offseason, I think if had Afrika had stuck in with that roster, I think they would have been probably bottom three team, like
Oh, for sure.
realistically.
But like to me, like
Realistically.
the changes are interesting. Like so, I
Yeah.
knew obviously mid needed to be gone. But I
And I
think
think
it.
and I think the player they got, so they got Fate. I think Fate was really good.
Yeah.
I think he's an obvious upgrade over Fly for sure. To be
No
completely
TSM
honest.
fate, unfortunate.
Yeah. Sorry, Rob, if you're watching us. Sorry you didn't get Fate, bro. But we can't all win. Can't win them all.
Mm,
The guy's got Shen Yi. Okay, so you know.
yeah, that person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. FPX is
Yeah.
sub fucking. Oh boy. All right. Let's not jump ahead of ourselves now, though.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's interesting though because they also picked up quite a few former T1 players,
Yeah, their
right?
whole team is pretty much just like usually. So last year it was washed up NA players. They got Bang and Fly, right? And
The
and
bang
this
and
year
fly.
this year they
God,
said, all
the
right,
fly in NA. I
yeah,
forgot
yeah,
about
remember
that.
FlyQuest? It was great. So they got instead they went for T1 players. So they have so their full roster, by the way, is Keen, Elim, or Elim, I don't know how you say it actually, Fate,
Ellen.
Teddy, and then they also have Leo still signed, so that's worth mentioning, and Hoyt. So Hoyt, Teddy, and Elim were all on T1 or T1 Challenger Series, or is it Challenger, League Challenger, whatever, same difference. But yeah, so it's interesting that they just went with the all T1 and then Fate from Live, right? Yeah, Live, or was it
Was he? No, was he? I think he was on KT.
or was it
I think
KT?
he's. I think he spent summer on KT. I'm like pretty sure he was on KT.
All right, I gotta check because I'm
Uh,
gonna feel dumb if I get this wrong.
no, Dove. I'm mixing up Fate and Dove.
Yeah, it
No, no,
was
you're
Live.
right.
It
You're
was
right.
Live.
You're
All
right.
right.
You're right.
Okay. Well, speaking of Dove's weird too, but we'll get to that
Yeah, Dove.
eventually. But like honestly, like this team's pretty good. I think
Yeah.
Elim over Dread is interesting, and I think Lehens was the like probably
I
the best
don't.
player besides Keen.
I'm
But
not. I'm not sold on the Elim for Dread change.
yeah,
I'm not.
I'm iffy on it.
I'm happy to be proven wrong for sure. Um, but yeah, I think overall it's an upgrade, right? I think
Mhm.
bringing in Teddy. So I think Teddy, like there was a whole discussion on T1 of Teddy versus Gumayushi, and I think that they're both excellent
Oh,
players.
for sure.
I think the main thing for me though is I think Gumayushi is much better than Teddy. Well, I wouldn't say much better than Teddy in quite a few things. But there are two things that Teddy brings to the table that Gumayushi does not have. The first and obvious one I think is experience. right? Like Teddy, this guy's been around. This guy, carried Janair Green Wings. For those of you who did not know who Janair Green Wings is, they were a really old LCK team, and they were an experience to watch. It was rough. It was really rough for
Awful.
Janair fans. But Teddy was their best player. Teddy was phenomenal. Um, so I think, and the second thing that I think that Teddy brings to the table is he brings mental stability, because this guy, as I said, he was on a really rough team, right? And it was during the time that the LCK games would go to 50 minutes, 60 minutes, 70 minutes. So this guy was basically playing Farming Simulator and hoping he could 1v9, and a lot of times he did, right? When Janair used to win, it was off of Teddy 1v9ing, essentially. So I think that his mental resilience that he has is something that not a lot of league players have. I think that AD carries should have it. I think that the best AD carries do have it. And I think he's going to need it on this Afrika roster, because, it's Afrika freaks, right? Like, at the end of the day, they're probably going to be like the really weird LCK team that will like 2-0 Damwon and then lose to Hanwha the next day, and you're like,
That was Afrika's biggest weakness in the summer. They were able to beat, like, they beat T1, and then they just then they go like and lose to fucking Live Sandbox, and it's like,
yeah,
right.
they were. I'm pretty sure they were like DRX's like first win.
Yeah, I forgot about that. It was like the final week, and if they won that, they would have got like second or third place. But then they lose to freaking DRX. It's like mind numbing.
Oh god, it's Afrika, right?
Yeah.
Like, and at the end of the day, I've been an Afrika fan for a while now, and this is just it's every year. It's not the rosters, it's not the play. It's the spirit of the team. The team's spirit is, let's give all of our fan base a heart attack. That's just what they roll with.
I think this,
and I think that Teddy will need to have a lot of his, willpower to win games on this Afrika roster.
Honestly, like, I can see Afrika like getting top 4, but I can also see them getting bottom 4.
Yeah,
so like
exactly.
that's the thing. I think the biggest question for me is Hoyt. First of all, I think that's a pretty big question. Can he compete really with Teddy well? And it's also possible, because they did also split time on T1 together, that they have some experience together.
Yeah.
So maybe there is something that the average person doesn't know there. So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on that. And the second biggest question is, I'm actually cool with Fate. Like, Fate's awesome, but it's the LM thing that we mentioned, LM over Dread. So as long as like LM like is serviceable, I think this is a very solid team, and I think he will be serviceable. I don't know. I think it's an upgrade overall, but seeing Lehens specifically go hurts a lot, because I honestly think Lehens is like an easily top 10 support in the world. I think you could even, I wouldn't agree, but I think you could make a case for him being top 5 of active players currently. Because I think he's really that good. And it's good that he's on a good team now, so good for him. But yeah. I don't know. They lose pieces, but they also, I think, gain more stability with this roster overall.
Yeah, and there is one last thing that I actually did want to bring up about specifically Hoyt. So, Hoyt, he was on Damwon previously. He used to split time with Beryl, and then Damwon.
Isn't he technically a world champ?
He is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was on that roster.
Yeah, he was.
So, he used to split time with Beryl, and they were like, "Oh, well, we're gonna stick with Beryl." And then they stuck with Beryl. And then he joined T1, where it was T1, it was Beryl, it was Hoyt and Keria. And then again, they started out like about 50-50, like, yeah, you know what, let's just stick with Keria, right? So this will actually be Hoyt's first chance where he is going to play for Afrika. At least in spring, he will be Afrika's sole support.
Well, Afrika does have Mapsy, or I think that's how you say it, signed currently still. Yeah, they still have Mapsy as a sub, but yeah,
I'm pretty sure they're sticking with Hoyt.
Yeah, for sure.
If he gets subbed out this time, I think that's a sign that you got to move.
Unlucky for him. But enough about Afrika. I think we gotta go semi-fast because there's a lot of teams to talk about. Let's go up to DRX. So DRX has literally nothing but improvement to go. They can't do any worse. And honestly, I don't think their roster's awful if this ends up being true. So we have Kingin in the top, Pioshik in the jungle, Zeka in the mid lane, and Deft and Beryl in the bot lane. So Deft Beryl specifically is a pretty damn strong bot lane. Beryl ints, but Beryl also has his moments of genius, and I think putting him with Deft is actually a pretty good combination. Pioshik, I'm so happy to see him back. I think he was that soul, like
He was their
light.
best player.
He was the
He
soul
was their
light on
best player.
DRX. I feel bad, dude. It sucks we don't see his Mundo anymore. It's so sad. That's the biggest tragedy in the Mundo rework. Is no more Pioshik Mundo unless he breaks out unorthodox jungle Mundo on the rework. But
You
honestly,
know what?
not
I
bad.
wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put him past him.
Yeah, he plays weird
Um,
stuff.
So yeah, so the new one coming in to this, like the new one for LCK fans coming in, is Zika in the mid lane. So for those of you who don't know, so this is still a rumor. It's still not official, but it's pretty close to being official at this point. So he is coming from BLG. BLG, they finished. Let me think. So they made playoffs in summer, and they fell in the second round of playoffs to World Elite. Now, don't let that deceive you. Zika was probably the reason why BLG made it to playoffs in the first place. Zika had a monstrous summer.
He's also Korean. Just throwing that out there.
Yes,
so it's
he is.
not
He is a Korean player. He is a Korean player, so he's not considered an import. So the summer, the All-Star, All-Pro team. So the first one was Doinby. Doinby got summer MVP. Second was Knight. Knight got, he broke the record for solo kills. Knight had a monster summer as well. And third place, Fofo got third. I personally think Zika got robbed. I think Zika should have made it into third place. But he finished fourth. Icon finished fifth, and from there on, I don't remember. But Zika had a really, really good summer. Like this guy, he has an incredible Silas play. He's really good at Twisted Fate. He's very versatile.
Is he good at traditional mages, control mages? Okay.
Yes, he is. And what happens is he's not only good at playing them, he's good at playing into them, right? Because when it comes to the traditional control mages, we have the likes of Scout. Like you guys saw the World Finals. Scout's Zoe is nothing to scoff at.
Mm-hmm.
His Syndra, his Azir. Azir is actually his favorite champion. And there's many other LPL mid laners that actually do play a lot of control mages, and still, Zika on BLG, a roster that was fairly, I'm gonna say they were gonna probably make playoffs. I'm not saying that they weren't, but they were middle of the pack. I don't think anyone was saying BLG has a chance at making Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
But despite being on a fairly mediocre roster, I think Zika managed to impress. So if you know nothing about him and you're a DRX fan, I think that this is good news.
And also, it's worth noting King and Zika played together on BLG.
Yes.
So
yes,
there is a little bit of that synergy, and if they get them together, then that's nice in and of itself.
And Coach Kim is allegedly going to BLG to DRX as well. After the whole CV Max staying, not staying, the whole incident, we're not going there.
Mm-hmm.
But Coach Kim, who went to BLG this year, is bringing back Zika with him, and they're both joining DRX allegedly.
Yeah.
So
honestly, I think this is a solid roster. Huge upgrade over last year.
Definitely.
It's not as I guess. I mean, last year was pretty rookie, and not really rookie, but it was just a lot of I guess fresher faces.
Yeah.
And this is a lot more of a I guess stable, less risky roster.
But it's still young, right?
Yeah, it's
the
still
only
old
player there who I think is they're maybe considering retiring in the next 1-2 years would probably be Deft. I think everyone else, Pioshik, he started what 2020, 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know these.
He was 2020 because it was when he joined DRX with Chovy, so it was 2020.
Yeah, Deft is 25, but Kingan's 21.
Yeah, Kingan's 21.
Yeah, this is not.
What about Barrel's also young? I think he is at least because he's fairly new. He joined the LCK. He is? Wow, okay.
Okay, yeah. So they got a bit of a boomer bot lane, but the rest seems relatively young. Honestly, I don't hate it though. I think this is a solid roster out of DRX.
Yeah, I think that if we see a couple of the top level LCK teams mess up and DRX has a stable year, I think that they could be very similar to what Shin Red Force was in 2021,
Yeah, for
where
sure.
they don't make worlds, but they make a really good push towards it.
And like I think for DRX, all they want to see is just like a decent, respectable finish after last year. Yes,
Yes.
this could be like honestly, this is a team that could make a world's run, but I bet on it. No, but
No, but they
it's
could.
possible, yeah. And it's just
I
one of
think
those teams.
playoffs is definitely a
Oh
safe
yeah,
bet,
for
safe bet
sure.
for this team.
But like, if this is a team that is able to ramp up, and we see some other teams perform slightly under expectations, then
Yes.
yeah, this is a team that could make that run. And I don't know, I think it's interesting. But let's go on the DK. So Damwon Kia is having a bit of an interesting offseason. Seems like the only two staying are Canyon and Showmaker. Khan obviously is going the military service. There were some rumors of Nuguri coming back, but Nuguri's taking a break. It doesn't seem like he's retiring, but he's at least taking a break here. So that leaves still a question mark in the top lane, but we know that Duck Dom and Kellen, or I don't know if we know, but they're rumored at
No, but
least.
it's rumored, and it's a good rumor too.
Yeah, and they were on oh god, Nongshim,
Nongshim Red
yeah.
Force.
So they're moving over together as a duo. Honestly, it's interesting because on paper, it's not like an objective upgrade over Ghost Barrel,
But it could
but
be.
it could be. So yeah, it's going to be interesting when you put these two on a team with better players, how they do. Duck Dom, he's been around for a while, right? Not like
No, I think no. He joined with Team Dynamics, which used to be Nongshim Red Force.
oh yeah, he's not
So
as old as I thought. Wow, okay,
he joined LCK last year
yeah,
actually.
he did.
Fairly
Okay,
new.
yeah, I thought he was.
Both.
I must be flipping him with someone in my head. But yeah, no, honestly, like it's an interesting bot lane to have. The top lane is just like where are they
The
going to
main
grab
question
something?
mark. Yes.
And
And spoiler alert for a couple of next LCK teams we're going to talk about. The top lane is where a lot of these teams we come into question, right?
mm,
Because there's of course the biggest one was Nuguri, right? Like who's going to get him, right? Because he's leaving FPX.
and
He
you
left
lose Khan,
FPX.
Khan as a resident too. It's like it
And you
sucks.
lost Khan, exactly. So those are two
And Summit,
really, really good. And you lost Summit to Cloud9.
yeah,
So those are three of, and I think all three of them could be considered S tier top laners
for sure.
easily. They lost all three of those. So that brings up the question of, okay, so we know Rascal and we know Doran. These guys they've all been around the league for quite a while now. But a lot of LCK teams are going to have to start getting a bit creative with their top laners. And I think that we're going to see quite a few academy top laners are going to have to be promoted because realistically, you know, you have to play someone,
Yeah,
right?
and
Not
honestly,
every
it's
team
kind
can
of cool
fully.
that the younger players might get a chance this year. The ones who are performing really well in Challengers League, get an opportunity. So
Yeah.
I don't know how good DK's academy team is. I'm not
They
that
were
aware.
second. They were second worst in
Ooh,
summer
okay,
actually. So T1 was the worst. Like they finished them last. Down1 finished right over them. So I don't I don't know.
yeah,
They could probably try to get Afrika's academy top laner though, because Afrika had a good summer split, and their academy top laner is definitely not getting promoted anytime soon
yeah.
because
They have Keen.
Keen is right there.
Yeah,
So they could probably try to nab him.
yeah,
Um, yeah, or teams could try to get creative because we've seen one mid laner rotate up to top lane. We could see. I think we could see other teams
yeah.
do
We
the
could
same.
we could definitely see role swaps. We could even see, like imports. Honestly, like I'm not even joking. Like bring in like why can't we bring in a Chinese top laner or something like that? From the what is the league under the LPL? It's LD something.
LDL.
LDL. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we can see something like that, or even just join someone from the 17 teams. So it's gonna, yeah, that's like the biggest question on DK. But in terms of what's there, I think this is solid. I don't think this is a world champion level team at the moment. They have, I think, a lot to prove to get to that level. But if Duck Dom Kellen work out, they could easily still be a top 3 LCK team.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there is one last rumor regarding Don Kia's top laner. I actually have the right jersey for this. So apparently,
Shy.
they are in talks with. They're trying to sign the Shy. I don't know how well that's going over. I don't know how much faith I'm putting in this rumor. As an IG fan, I want us to keep the Shy. At the same time, I don't, but I want him. I want him back in the LPL. Um, and I don't know how well the Shy would fit. I think the Shy, he's an incredible player. Do not get me wrong, but I do not think he would fit well into this current Dom One Kia roster. I
Especially
think
after
he's too gung ho. He's too he. This guy. It took him 3 games in the spring split to say, screw it, I'm going Vayne.
yeah. Especially
I don't
after
think that's a Dom One Kia top
Con,
player right
you
there.
know?
Yeah,
It's like that's such a
it's
change.
such
It's
a
like
polarizing.
yeah, it's like for I guess for Western fans who don't watch a lot of that, it's like fucking going with Power of Evil to like fucking oh god, like Jizuke. Like it's just like it's
Pretty
stable to
much. I
just
think that's a
complete fucking wild
really
card.
fair. I think that's
So
really fair comparison.
like it's not like to bash the Shy. Obviously the Shy is great. It's just
No,
like
I
stylistically
think
is the
I think the
question.
Shy. I think the thing with the Shy is the Shy. I think he has higher highs than honestly. I think any top laner in the world. I think the Shy in his highest highs, he is the best top laner in the
He's
world.
insane, yeah, when he's
But
on it, when he's on.
on his in his lowest lows, this guy is it's painful to
Yeah.
watch. Like I remember till this day, I know probably our TGH friend and coworker Christian is probably listening in. Uh, we were watching this spring this year. We were watching playoffs of the LPL, and we were watching IG versus Rare Adam.
Mhm.
And this is something I'm always going to remember. IG, they were like 7K goal lead ahead, and Christian was like, "Oh yeah, this is looking really good. I think IG is going to take it." And I'm like, "No, they're going to go to Baron. They're going to get aced. They're going to lose Baron." And that's exactly what happened. And the game finished with the Shy frontlining on Quinn. And I'm like, that just sums up the Shy, right? It sums up the Shy. It sums up exactly who he is as a player, and I genuinely do not think that's a fit for Dom One Kia.
Yeah. Don't disagree. Any other things to say about DK? Wait, actually, didn't they? What about Coma?
Oh yeah, it's true. We have no idea where the situation. I know that they re-signed
They
Coach
re-signed,
Sefa,
yeah, which is
so
interesting.
they're
So,
probably getting rid of Coma. Would be my
well,
guess.
and there's honestly a chance he goes back to T1. But we'll get to that. I guess let's go on the Fredit. So Fredit Breon was a weird team last year. I think they
And they're
had some
keeping that consistent.
they had some big wins, but they also just then went on insane losing streaks where they just lose to everyone.
Yeah.
And they also had a lot of roster swaps as well, so they were one of those teams. So this year, it seems like they are going with Sword, Umpty, and Sword in the top lane, Umpty in the jungle, Lava in the mid lane, who was, I think, is staying over from last year.
Yes.
And then we have Henna and Delight in the bot lane.
So everyone's the same other than Sword. Sword is a one change, actually.
Is that the only? God, all I remember is Lava from that team. I don't
No,
remember this
all
team at
four.
all. They're so
Umti
unmemorable.
was from there. I know. So yeah, and so here's the thing. So I think so. Here's my 2 cents. So I think Sword, I think he gets a lot of unnecessary hate. Because of the whole Griffin situation. Again, we're not gonna go back there.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's an S tier top laner. I don't think anyone on this Fredit Breon team is S tier. I don't think anyone's even A tier, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Fredit Breon, and right now, I think that the only team that they beat easily would be Hanwha Life, because Hanwha Life has no one on their team, and that's the only reason why. Like, I'm not confident on this Fredit Breon roster. I think all the other teams that were around them made significant upgrades. I think Afrika made upgrades. I think Live Sandbox, to an extent, made good upgrades.
Yeah.
I think DRX made massive upgrades.
I tend to
So
agree.
that kind of leaves Fredit Breon as the one team who they kept 4 players, and I think they were bottom 3. I don't think they were dead
Yeah,
last. I
I
think dead
don't.
last was
I'll check
DRX,
real quick. Hold on.
but they were like bottom 3,
Yeah,
bottom
they were
2.
ninth in spring and
And
summer.
so, and you're keeping 4 of the 5 players, and the one player you're changing is not a significant enough change.
Yeah, so
Right, you're not signing Doran, you're not signing Rascal, you're not signing, screw it, the Shy for that matter. You're signing Sword. He's good. I think he's much better than a lot of people will give him credit for, but I don't think he is top 5 in the league.
yeah, I don't disagree with that. Now I like it's just it seems weird. I think this is gonna be one of these teams that we're gonna see some academy swaps
Eventually,
eventually, and
out
obviously
of necessity.
probably out of necessity. So those rosters have not been announced yet. Anything in like Challengers League or stuff like that, or Challenger Series. I always forget. Like we haven't seen that yet. So I think there is a chance we could see some swaps if stuff isn't going well. But honestly, if I had to place a bet on a 10th place team right now,
Fred
probably going to
Breon's
be
looking
Fred
real
Breon,
good.
looking real good for that 10th place bet. Now to be fair, like to Fred Breon, like I don't think that this is like I don't think we're going to see a team this year that is as bad as DRX last year.
Yeah.
So when I'm saying that they're 10th place, they'll still pick up a couple wins.
I don't think they'll finish winless.
Yeah, they're not going to finish. Yeah, they're not going to finish winless. But they're not going to be that good. So I don't really have much more to say. This is a pretty awful team. Like even to, like it's so sad I didn't even remember 3 of their players. That's actually embarrassing.
But it says a lot about the team, right?
Yeah, they were so unmemorable. They were so unmemorable.
Which is it's sad, but it's the truth. So
the one issue about franchising is that you sometimes have teams like this that are just like megalols constantly. But next is Gen.G. So Gen.G is pretty exciting because they had a pretty interesting year, obviously. Going from what I think a lot of people would consider to be kind of a fraud second place in the LCK run, where they just got blown out by T1, but because they had a better spring, they automatically got the second place. So a lot of people were considering their 3 seed. The true 3 seed from Korea for Worlds was Gen.G, and T1 was the true 2nd seed. But they made so many changes. They so much so that they only have 1 player returning, and that is Ruler. So in the top lane, we have Doran, we have Peanut in the jungle, Chovy in the mid lane, which is so crazy to me, Ruler as ADC, and Lehens as support. Gen.G is going for it this year. They are going for domestic success. They are trying to make a Worlds team. They are going for everything. And I'm kind of excited because this is going to be a really fun team to watch.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a really long-term Peanut fan. This guy, he's literally only been on teams that I've loved. So he used to be on Rocks Tigers, which today is still the team that has conquered my heart from any LCK team. May they rest in peace. Then he had some rough years, and then he moved on to LGD, which is a team in the LPL that I have endless love for. He looked incredible. You can be quiet, Mike. He went to Worlds. He had an iffy Worlds for sure. I will give you that. But then in 2021, he looked really good on Nongshim.
Oh, he did.
He was their best. He was their best player.
Oh, for sure.
He was Nongshim's best player. So anyone who's not sure about the Peanut signing, he was Nongshim's best player, and Nongshim was the 5th place team in summer because they just fell behind Hanwha,
and then they lost to T1 in playoffs at the start,
and then they fell to Hanwha in the regional finals.
And like to be fair, and like the only question with Peanut is it's not even on his skill. Is he better than Clid? Because Clid is a player who is not signed right now, and the rumor you were telling me is PSG Talon, which is kind of crazy. They lost River, obviously, to the 10th place team in the LCS, Dignitas. Unlucky for him, actually retirement home meme. Actually a retirement home meme. Well earned. But like honestly, like it's not a knock on Peanut to ask if he's better than Clid, because Clid was also, I think, pretty good. And of that Gen.G roster, I think he was one of the better players. So it's more or less that. But the rest of this team, besides Peanut, is just insane. Lehens is a clear upgrade over Life. Chovy,
I think Roller and Lehens right now, I would probably say that the only bot lane that can even look Roller and Lehens in the eye is, of course, them too actually. So Viper and Mako would in the world I'm talking about, because I think that those 3 bot lanes, specifically T1's bot lane, Gen.G's bot lane, and EDG's bot lane, they're on a whole other league.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. Like, if Ruler keeps up the performance that this guy has been doing for years, right? This guy, he's been on Gen.G for years. Do you know how bad this man is probably aged? Like, this guy, he's probably just done. He's happy. Now he's gonna actually have a team that can help him carry and not, try to sink him to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, it's
So
such a big upgrade for him because
I'm
Lehans
so
is going to
excited for this
enable Ruler
Gen.G.
so much more.
So much. It's crazy. It's gonna be crazy. Like, and that's no disrespect to Life. I think Life is an okay support. I think he's
Yeah.
serviceable. But I think Lehans is just that much better, which says so much. And then, the Chovy BDD. I think BDD is good, don't get me wrong,
It's just two
but
different play styles too. Also,
I'll
yeah.
take honesty to God, maybe this is just, my aggressive way of viewing the game, but I would take Chovy over BDD any day of the week.
I would
Twice
say for
twice on a
like
Sunday.
80% of teams, that's probably true.
Yeah.
I would take him unless like you really just needed someone who is just like because BDD's weird. Like BDD isn't like someone who is trying to win lane as much as he's trying to help his team.
Yeah.
In a sense, and so like a lot of people will like look at BDD stats alone and they'll be like, "Well, this guy's awful," but like it's
No, what he brings is
what he brings is not something you can easily catch on a stat sheet. He gives up his
sure.
farm for someone. He's not like greedy. He's willing to sacrifice himself to enable his team. And Chovy's the complete fucking opposite. Chovy's gonna yoink every bit of CS possible,
There's also that. And I think the main thing that BDD also has going for him is lane prio. I think that when it comes to lane manipulation, I think BDD is the best in probably in the world, actually. So yes, Chovy I think is better at, as you said, farming, getting the gold, making sure I am the carry. BDD, he understands, okay, I'm gonna sacrifice this wave, but I'm gonna have it perfectly set up so that I can go collapse with my jungler and we can 2v1, this kid. So I think that they do bring two really different things to the table. But I think that on this Gen.G roster, I currently think that Chovy is the perfect fit, right?
Yeah.
Because Peanut, he is a good jungler. He's a very aggressive jungler, but he's not a greedy jungler. Peanut, he's not. He carries, but he has carry performances, but he's not on carry junglers. So I think that fits perfectly well with a mid laner who wants. He wants the gold. He wants the greed. He wants to take his jungler's chickens. He wants to invade the enemy jungle and take their chickens, right?
Yeah.
And Peanut is more than willing to go and help him out, right? And then you have a stable top laner in Doran, who
Doran's gonna be tank duty, man.
I feel bad, but he's good at it, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
And you got, I think, top 3 top bot lane in the world. So this Gen.G roster is looking amazing.
Scary.
Like,
I
cannot stop.
You can play through Ruler, you can play through Chovy, but they're clearly going to play through bot side unless like the meta is like drastically top favored, which I don't really see happening on the current preseason, but I guess it's possible. So yeah, unless it would take like an insane shift for them to probably change how they're going to play this game. But it's so exciting. Gen.G is going to be so much fun to watch, and like I genuinely think that they are on roster alone so far the best team in the LCK.
Easily.
I think
easily.
Unless like T1 puts together like
T1 would need something monumental.
Yeah, it's probably just going to be Genji. And again, this is all on paper. We'll see how the team does. But pretty damn good.
I do want to just point out though, Gen.G, if you count Old Man's score, they have 32 second places on that team's history.
Tragic.
I just want to throw that out there, okay? I'm just throwing that out there to the wind. I still think this is an amazing roster, but I'm just saying if this team gets second place in anything,
it's Genji. It's in Genji's blood. Yeah.
It's not. It's better. It's bigger than them. It's not their fault.
So next is Hanwha. So Hanwha is pretty weird because there is quite literally nothing on this team yet. Willer and Vista are still currently signed, but obviously they lost Chovy, they lost Deft, and
they released Morgan.
Yeah, they released Morgan. So it's like, well, what is left on this team? I think Willer's fine. I like him actually. I think that's a great jungler to have. So if they actually keep him and this isn't just like temporary, like he's still there, but we're not really planning on playing him, that's fine. Vista, is all right.
Yeah, I think he's serviceable. I think
Yeah,
Vista is serviceable.
but I wouldn't. I'd still
I wouldn't
probably put him
keep
like
him.
bottom 3 in the
I would
LCK for
I
supports.
like if I had a choice to not keep him, I don't think I would. But right now, like, they lost Deft and they lost
Jovi.
Chovy.
They have
And they
nothing to
lost
play
them
around.
for free. That's the problem. The
Yeah.
problem is they didn't sell the players. They lost them for free. So Hanwha has nothing right now. The few rumors going around for Hanwha is that they're just promoting their academy roster, which is, it's the cheaper thing to do. It's a thing that makes sense. Their academy roster, mediocre, right? Like, they didn't really do much. They weren't horrible. They didn't finish in last place, didn't finish in first place. They were just there, kind
Yeah.
of a thing. So I genuinely do not know, and like I don't think keeping Willer and Vista are big enough changes. Adding on their academy roster, or their academy top laner, mid laner, and AD carry, I don't think those changes are big enough. I think that, again, as I said earlier when we were talking about Fred at Breon,
Tank
I think
battle.
the only team that Fred at Breon beats right now is Hanwha, because Hanwha doesn't have their full 5 players. And even once Hanwha has their full 5 players, maybe Fred at Breon still edges them out. But right now, I'm looking at those two teams and I'm looking at everyone else in the league, and I'm like,
There's such a gap.
these two teams, they're on a whole other level in the worst
Yeah.
way possible. Like, I am like, I got nothing.
Yeah,
I
I feel
genuinely
bad
got
for
nothing.
Hanwha. I just
I do.
feel
I do
bad for
too.
them because it's like I don't think it's like obviously they had some coaching issues and a couple swaps last year, but at the end of the day they got it together when it mattered.
Yep.
Even though they still had like two of like the best players for their roles, like I
They
mean,
did make it to quarterfinals,
and they made it to
right? Like,
quarterfinals. Like no one, I think everyone was expecting them to bomb out in groups because and honestly, and the way that they pretty convincingly uh uh won play-ins even I think shocked some people. So it's like I think that that team when it mattered they actually got their stuff together.
yeah.
Um, and
So
now they kind of
I
just have
agree
so
with you.
much to go
I
through
think
again.
Willer is the main thing to look out for on this Hanwha team. I think that if a team is going to beat Hanwha, I don't think Hanwha should be underestimated by any means. And I think that Hanwha's wins will be through Willer. I think that they and it's funny because it's not going to be easy for him, because he's going to transition, in my opinion. So on the Hanwha team that we saw in 2021, it was the Chovy show, right? It was, how much can we give Chovy? So Chovy was taking half of Willer's
Yeah,
jungle. So Willer was playing on a budget. Now I think that Willer is actually going to be Hanwha's best player.
yeah,
He is probably going to be the player who's going to have to carry this team. So it's going to be a drastic, literal 180, change for him. And we're going to have to see how he does, right? Because maybe he's just not fit out for the carry jungler life. Maybe he's an enabling jungler, and maybe when he has to carry and he has to perform, maybe he doesn't, right?
yeah.
We don't know.
It's a lot of question marks. I don't really have much
Yeah.
more to say. Next, we'll go on to KT. So KT is also coming off, I think, a pretty bad year. I think they got 7th in the summer. I want to say
Remember the good old days when it was like KT versus T1?
T1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those were some years
Well, it
ago.
seems like they kind of want to get back to that. So much so that they stole Cuz from T1. But honestly,
I
the
guess.
KT roster is kind of interesting. You have Rascal from Gen.G in the top lane, Cuz who was one of the 3 sub junglers for T1. The current rumor is that KT's interested in picking up Arya, who is a free agent, officially a free agent from Detonation Focus Me, which is huge. And
It would be.
their bot lane is going to be Aiming and Life. Aiming, for those who aren't aware, played on Afrika. He went over on which team was he on in LPL?
BLG.
BLG.
He was on BLG. He was on Zika's team, actually.
All right. Oh, so you have like so many of that team coming up, so much of that team coming over. And then you have Aiming and Life. So it's an interesting bot lane. I think it's actually pretty not bot lane, interesting team. I think overall it's pretty solid. A lot of players you can look at and say like, well, they should be good on paper. I have way more doubt than I think I should for this team, just because I think of the other rosters, there are teams that are just better, and they're probably going to be like a fifth or sixth place team.
Even that could still be fairly generous. So my
Yeah.
main thing with this current KT roster, again, on paper, Rascal, this guy has been around for ages, right?
Mm,
He's been on Gen.G. This guy's been to quarterfinals, semifinals, at Worlds. He's won the LCK. This guy, he's good.
yeah.
Um, because again, he used to be on ages ago. It was Longzhu, which then became Kingzone Dragon X, which is now the DRX that we know. He was on T1. So again, these are very aiming. He's also been around the block. These are life. So literally all four of their players are players who they have a history in the game. My main thing with this roster, looking at these four, and I'm like, who the fuck is gonna carry?
Amen. Amen.
Who is going to slap their balls on the table and be like, I am carrying these players? Because
Well, who do
all
you
of
even
them,
build around? Yeah.
all of them, they are good. Don't get me wrong, they are good. But good and carrying are two very different things.
Yeah.
And no one on this team is a carry.
Arya's a
Aiming
carry.
is
Arya's a carry if that does happen.
if Arya comes, yes, he's a perfect fit. I think if KT gets Arya, I think this team again they could fight for fifth. They could maybe fight for fourth.
Yeah.
If they don't get Arya, if they sign, either Gory from Nongshim, or they're forced to pull up an academy mid laner,
It's gonna be
I
rough.
think this team is gonna tank.
Yeah.
I think if they get an academy mid laner, this team is probably gonna be eighth, maybe seventh.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Like my biggest thing is I think aiming life's a fine bot lane, but I don't think they're elite by any mean. That's kind
No.
of my issue. I think most of these people are fine. They're just not elite.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't question their ability to have games where this team probably looks pretty solid. It's just are they able to do that in two of the three games consistent? And
Yep.
so like I could see this being a one-win team Warriors in the best of threes. Like they will take a game
Consistently be 2-1.
yeah, be 2-1s. And so they're gonna be the reverse to what T1 was in the spring. Actually exactly what T1 was in the spring. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Like I think Arya, if they get him and are able to get him on like a 3-year contract, then they have something to build around. And that's what
Right.
I want to see out of KT this year. I want
Yes.
them
I
to get
want to
Arya,
rebuild. I want
and I
to
want them.
rebuild.
Yeah, this is fine. So you have Arya have this experience with a lot of vets, and you maybe like keep one or two of them next year, but you replace those other two spots, and you slowly start to build your way up to being like this team. Because this is if you don't get Arya and you just grab some Megalol who's not that great, then what do you accomplish this year? And the answer is you accomplish nothing. Because you're
And
probably
you
just
know
going to
what?
place
You know what?
bad.
You know what's the part that kind of makes me look at KT and being like, I'm not sure what the plan of attack here is. So skipping over quickly to JDG, their rumor is Kanavi wants back in the LCK. So for those of you who don't know, Kanavi, he is a carry jungler. And it's actually funny. So he's the other way around. He's a carry jungler. He puts on carry performances, but he's not always a good player. So
Mhm.
I think he would have fit really well into this roster in the sense that if you have, Rascal, veteran top laner, this guy is stability impersonated. Aiming and Life, two veteran players as well. These guys, Life, he's played with Clid before. He knows how to, ditch the bot lane. Aiming's an Ezreal player. Aiming is probably going to get ditched in this bot lane regardless.
Yeah.
He could have come up and he could have helped. So I think that if KT had picked up Kanavi, if they had gone Kanavi Arya, I think we would have been talking about a completely different
What if they
KT.
went Clit over Cuz? Would you hate that?
I don't think it makes a difference. I
Yeah.
genuinely like.
I
So
don't
Cuz is a
disagree with that.
Gragas player.
Yeah.
Cuz is a Gragas player. Clid is a Lee Sin player. It's the same thing, really. Lee Sin player that doesn't know that Lee Sin's Q had an execute until half of this year, by the way.
Yeah.
But uh, I don't think that Clid or Cuz would have made that much of a difference. I would have liked to see Kanavi on this KT roster, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I think that there's still a chance he can come to two other teams. We'll get to them soon, but I feel like it's a missed out, like it's a missed up opportunity, and I think that KT they need after the rough year that they had. I think that they needed to bounce back and be like, we're gonna try something new, and they did the exact opposite. They're gonna try something old.
Old.
Like we Aiming literally played for KT actually. He
Yeah.
went from Afrika to KT
T.
to BLG back to KT. He's been here before. Life has spent years on Gen.G. Rascal has spent years on Gen.G. Like, I feel like there's nothing new. Everyone's gonna come up against these guys and like, I know how you play, fool. Like, I've
Yeah.
played against you for like the last 6 years, dude. Like, there's nothing new here.
I think you just expressed it perfectly. That's kind of how I feel. But let's go on the Liv. Liv Sandbox is weird as hell. We have Dove in the
I like
top
it.
lane, who is a former mid
I
laner.
like
We'll
it.
get to that in a second. We don't know their jungler yet, but you have Croco.
Croco is still under contract,
All
and
right,
I
fair.
think he's okay.
We have Closer in the mid lane, aka Baker Sub. Envy and Kale in the bot lane. Uh, Interesting. An interesting roster. I think this one's actually kind of exciting.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Like to me, this I'd rather if I'm a GM, if I'm armchair GM, as Tim from Oracle's Elixir says, I like I would much rather be the GM of Live Sandbox right now than I'd rather
Over
be the
KT,
over KT
absolutely.
because this is a roster that you can build around. It has growth.
Right.
You're going to accomplish even if you don't do well. You're going to accomplish something this year. And
Yep.
that's going to be who do we set, who do we keep, who do we build around, what's our future, and I love it. I love the Closer signing. I think this is a great pickup. Obviously, he deserved to be a starting mid laner. It just was where,
Yep.
and it seems like Liv got him. The Dove role swap top is weird, but I don't hate it. I think a lot of mid laners and top laners can play a lot of the same stuff. Generally,
here's
I
the
think a lot
thing.
of the skill sets shared.
And here's the thing. So, Dove was actually on KT. That's where I got it mixed up. So, earlier when I said Fate was on KT, Dove and Fate used to be on Live Sandbox, and then one of them left. I thought it was Fate. It was Dove. He went to KT, and now he's back on Live Sandbox, and he went to the top lane. So that's going to be interesting. Croco, he was serviceable.
Yeah.
Like, and the thing is, he's still a new jungler. Like Croco, for all intents and purposes, I'm pretty sure he got into the LCK last year, so he's still relatively new. I think that again, if Kanavi genuinely is desperate to come back to the LCK, this is one of the two teams who could pick him up, because they do technically still they have not announced a jungler. I think Closer has a lot to prove, but
Sure.
he's hungry, right? He'll want to show up. And their bot lane is actually from Gen.G's academy team, even though Gen.G's academy team did not do well. I think they were actually. I think it was T1. It was T. If I'm not mistaken, it was T1. It was Damwon Kia and it was Gen.G in that order. So the three teams that made Worlds, their academy teams, they kind of had a rough summer. But both players are from Gen.G's academy team. I think that they were good. I don't think they were incredible, but I think that they were good. And again, they're young. Maybe they have a standout year. They have a great performance. And again, do I think Live Sandbox makes playoffs?
No.
Probably not. Do I think they make Worlds? Absolutely not.
Unless they have like a Hanwha run, yeah.
But I think that there is going to be a lot of positives that at the end of 2022, they're going to look back and be like, okay, you were really good and you were really good. We can keep you. You were serviceable. We'll maybe keep you, and we'll substitute.
You're essentially hoping that either Croco, Envy, or Kale stand out here. If you get one of those three, if you land one, then that's a huge win. If you get two, oh, that's awesome. If you get all three, you're fucking in GM heaven.
Then they're set.
So so it's like I like this. I saw an interesting thread on Twitter earlier by Kelsey Moser from AG. She was like, you see like these teams, like the younger players who go on to like teams with a lot of established presence and veterans are always the ones that do well. The teams that are just all like the newbies, with a few exceptions obviously, tend not to do well, and they don't stand out because they don't have the experience, they don't have a team going well, they don't have the confidence even of just winning.
But the problem is not the newbies.
It's not the newbies. Yeah.
They're just not built around it, right? And I think that that's actually a problem that this Live Sandbox roster could face.
And
because their
that's
bot
what I
lane
worry.
are rookies. Their
Yes.
bot lanes are both complete rookies. Croco and Closer, they've played before.
But yeah, it's still
Closer was a sub, and Croco has 1 year under his belt. The only actual somewhat veteran player is Dove,
and in a new position.
who is not only in a new position, but he was still splitting time with Fate. So when they were both on the same roster, of course, and then he moves on to KT, where he was splitting time with Yukal.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing is, again, who is going to be, who's the shot caller for this team?
I think it's probably, if I had to guess, it's probably going to be Dove. But
Dove
I could also see Closer, yeah. Unless like Envy or Kale like are known for their shot calling, which God knows.
Yeah,
But it
but
could be one of those
that's
things.
hope. I think that's already tending on hopes and dreams, right? Because they're both rookies, so from an academy team. So I think there's only so much you can realistically expect from them.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, I don't hate this live sandbox. I think they're a solid 7th. I think they're a solid 7th.
I like it way more than like I probably should, but just because, like I said, I see a future with this team, and I like what they're doing here in terms of their roster versus just like going gun ho and then just getting fifth. Next is now Shin Red Force. So now Shin Red Force had this really insane summer run, but then ended up coming up pretty short. I think a lot to really under people's expectations, honestly, in the playoffs and the gauntlet. So now they decided, fuck it, we're gonna pretty much redo the entire roster,
everything.
Right? So it's exciting though. We have Kana in the top lane, Dread in the jungle, BDD in the mid, Ghost and Effort in the bot lane. Share your thoughts first.
That is a roster. That is certainly a League of Legends roster. Do I like it? Yes. Do I hate it? Also, yes. There's a lot to take in here.
It's like, very uninspired, but it is a super team.
It is, and at the same time, it's funny because all of their players, they're all very, 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 very cut and dry. So Kana, Kana, in my opinion, he was probably the most shocking thing that came out of 2021 Worlds, other than EDG making it out of quarterfinals. In the sense that everyone was like, "Now this guy's like a B tier top laner." I think he was like arguably the best top laner at Worlds.
Kana did very well.
I still would give it to Ale on LNG. I think that he was the best top laner. I think that what he did to Bertle against that Gen.G game was probably the most brutal thing we've seen at a World Championship. But I think that you could easily have an argument for Kana. But that being said, this guy, he struggles with his map awareness. Then you move on to Dread.
Well, it's it's champion pool too with Kana is another big concern.
Yes. Dread, great early tempo jungler. It comes to late game and shot callings, this guy, he gets lost. He's an Afrika jungler. Like, there's only so much you can expect from him. He's an Afrika jungler. We talked about BDD. He's excellent at what he does, but he has his limitations.
Yeah.
You got Ghost. Everyone complained about Ghost on Dom 1 Kia. I think he is serviceable. I think he's really good on utility champions. I don't think he's a carry.
Ghost got way more hate
than he deserved.
Beryl, I think, deserved a lot more hate than he got.
Yes. I agree with you on that one.
Don't disagree.
And their support is Effort, who was always middle of the pack. So again, you got a top laner who's good, but has champion pool struggles and has map awareness problems. You got an early tempo jungler who struggles with team fights. You got a mid laner who's very, very good, but I think the main thing with BDD is he's not a carry. He's excellent, but he's not a carry. Like, he's not the flash into 4 Orianna Shockwave one shot half the enemy team kind of a person. He's not, gonna put on Chovy or Knight levels of carry. He's gonna be a more quiet carry.
Yeah.
You got an AD carry who is going to be better on utility picks, and you got a support who's been middle of the pack. So my thing is, this team, they're actually, honest to God, if you didn't tell me this was Nongshim Red Force and you told me this was a Freak of Freaks, I would have been like, yeah.
Oh, honestly, yeah. I mean,
I think they're gonna have the same issue that they could beat anyone and then lose to like Fred Breon.
My thing is, like, I need to someone on this team needs to step up and be that, not even a
Carry?
veteran force or not even the carry. Someone needs to be the shot caller, and someone needs to make sure this team just works. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, who's it gonna be? And to me, it's BDD or effort.
I think it's Dread.
Really,
I think it has to be on Dread. I think it absolutely. So Dread,
like that's my thing
he's
is
good
like,
on early tempo.
but you need someone to keep Dread and Kana in reins.
Yeah,
In reins. So
but
it's like I'm like,
at
well,
the
who
same
does that?
time, at the same time, I'm hoping that Dread actually brings out the wild side of BDD, which I think is there. I think BDD is a really good mid laner, and I think that he could.
And
I, you
he's
know,
had his moments for
we've
sure.
we've we've been here, harping on him about how he sacrifices his lane and he's not a hyper carrier or whatever. I think he could, like, we see him on performances like on his Zoe,
Oh
right? Like
yeah,
it's
disgusting,
insane. It is
disgusting. War
insane.
crimes.
And so I think that but the thing is, all of his previous junglers, right? You had Clid. Who was Gen.G's jungler before Clid? Oh God.
I got
But it
you.
was also someone just like Peanut. I know Peanut was at one point BDD's jungler, but I think there was someone between Peanut and Clid.
Yeah, let me
Either
find
way,
it.
um, all of his junglers were always very reserved junglers.
No, it was just Peanut Clid.
It was
Peanut
Peanut
straight
Clid.
up
All
Clid.
right, so
He
yeah.
had Swang Hung as like a sub, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So he's always had as we said about Peanut, he's not a carry jungler. He has carry performances. He's not a carry jungler player. He's not an aggressive in your face kind of a player. Dread is the kind of player that says, I am going in.
And he's got a
And
cool
I
name.
think and he's got a cool name, exactly. And my favorite part is before he used to be called Twilight. I'm pretty sure he used to be called Twilight or Twinkle, or it was something really like cutesy, and then he went from that to Dread.
Dread,
And
yeah.
I'm just like, nice. Uh, so I think that BDD with an aggressive jungler, with an aggressive top laner who is going to overextend, I will say this immediately. Kana will overextend. 100% guaranteed this guy's gonna get caught out. But BDD, he plays Twisted Fate. Dread plays the carry junglers who have mobility. They can rotate up
Yeah.
there. Suddenly, you have 3 players collapsing on your top laner who you thought was overextending. So I think that Nongshim have a good roster. Could this team make Worlds? Yes.
Yes.
Do I think this team make Worlds? No.
Well,
This is a team. Remember way back earlier during our conversations where we were talking about Afrika, and we were like, if a team doesn't perform how they could, Afrika could slip into Worlds. I think Nongshim is that team.
so you think
I
it's
think
yeah.
right
I
now,
don't disagree actually. It's a good point.
I think Nongshim, are they favored? I think, are they a top 4 team right now? Yes. I think right now our top 4 teams are going to be Gen.G, obviously. I think Dom1 Kia is still going to be up there. So those are 2 that I'm pretty sure are going to stay.
Probably T1.
T1,
Yeah.
T1, I'm confident enough that they'll stay. And that I genuinely think Nongshim Red Force is the 4th best team in the LCK.
After that,
right
it goes probably Nongshim,
Afrika.
Afrika, and then maybe if you're feeling a little bit generous, we could maybe throw in like KT. If everything goes right, but
Yeah,
not.
if things go. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I think that Nongshim is that team. If they don't perform, Afrika will be right on their ass, and they'll take their world spot. And I think that that is because in some cruel twist of fate, it looks like Afrika's team is somehow more stable than this team.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't know how that works out, but Afrika may not be the most unstable team in the LCK this year.
It's crazy.
This year, which will, it's gonna be nice for me to watch because I can only take so many heart attacks.
Well, see, like it's just like what you say with CLG, going with no expectations, and you'll just be happy.
Exactly, right?
That's being an Afrika fan. All right, I think we got our piece in with Now Shin. And like I said, we kind of got to go a bit faster. There's a lot of stuff to go through still. Next is final LCK team here is T1. So T1's weird because we pretty much only know 3 spots. It's gonna be Faker, Gumayusi, Keria,
which is amazing.
And those, and to be fair, besides Faker, none of those have been confirmed. But I mean, it's obvious that it's gonna be Gumayusi, Keria. Owner is still on the roster. That is notable. They are potentially looking for a different not mid laner, sorry, jungler. But it's also entirely possible Owner stays. Top lane is the biggest question mark for T1. And are they going to go yoink someone from Challenger Series? T1 is known to foster really good top laners that could do Zeus. They could grab someone from the LPL. They could just maybe call up Hooney, get him back. I'm kidding. That would be funny. I would love
It would
that.
be funny. It would be funny. It would be good. I would give you that.
Second time T1 yoinking Hooney from a Western team, round 2. Nah. It's good. The biggest question mark once again is top lane here. It's can you find someone who you are confident in that's going to. They don't have to be Kana, they don't have to be aggressive, but just someone who is able to play at that high of a level that T1 expects.
You know what's something funny? I think that T1 should have nabbed Rascal. I think the main reason why they didn't is because he's older.
Yeah, T1 tends to go for younger top laners.
I think that he would have been perfect for this roster. You know, their top laner, just throw him on tank duty and he'll be fine. Throw Rascal on tank duty and he's happy, right? Like, he's like one of the few top laners that non-ironically enjoys playing tanks.
Yeah.
So just throw him, you know. But I don't think that, obviously that's not going to be the case. And I think that they're probably just going to end up playing Zeus because
Z-E-U-S, kick W.
They don't really have a lot of choices, right? Like, I've heard nothing about the Shy on T1. That would probably also qualify for a Joker moment from my behalf if the Shy went to T1. And again, could they pick up a Chinese top laner? Yes. Will they pick up a Chinese top laner? 95% sure, no. So, and it's funny because my favorite top laner from China would actually be perfect for this T1 roster, but we'll get to there soon.
I think like the thing is with this T1 team is if they get Koma back, I can see he just scouts tops really well.
He does.
And I wonder if they get him back, they just yoink some Who Mega Lol top laner.
It works out.
And it works out. Like, and I could genuinely see that happening.
It goes back to what you were talking about earlier, right? Which is, look, you got Faker. You know, when it comes to well-built rosters and stable players, Faker is literally the best we'll ever get.
Yes.
So it's the perfect roster for you to fit in a rookie, right? Like an absolute Humegalol coming into this T1 top lane. I think that there's only so bad T1 can do because you got Faker, Gumayushi, and Kyria, literally like top 3, well, Faker maybe, but like arguably top 3 players on all of their respectable roles.
Oh, for sure.
So there's only so bad this T1 roster can suck. Like, that's my point of view. I think worst case scenario they get 4th seed for Worlds. I think that's the absolute horror of a worst case scenario. I don't think that's even going to happen though. So
I agree actually. It's just interesting.
I'm fairly confident, but I am very curious as to because again, but that's on the hypothetical that Coach Coma does return to D1.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at like all the I'm looking at the history of top laners on T1 and it's disgusting, right? You have Impact, you have Marin, you have obviously Hooney. Yeah, Duke as well. It's just so many
There's always had
top laners. You had Khan temporarily, but I mean obviously that wasn't his first stop. But you know, it's like you just have all these players. So like I have absolute faith in them being able to yoink someone just random.
I do too.
And I think that's what's probably going to happen. I don't think Zeus is the future for T1, and no disrespect to Zeus. I think he had some good games, but I mean they went with Con NA instead of EU. You know, just typical. And I don't know. I don't really have much more to say than that. It's just I think Owner's fine. I actually really hope he stays on T1. I don't really want them to go for someone else.
Because the only other possibility would be Kanavi.
Yeah, Kanavi, and it's I don't particularly.
And I don't think he would fit.
Yeah,
he is too greedy of a jungler for T1. T1 has never had greedy junglers. Actually, all of their junglers have always kind of been like team player junglers. I think the greediest they ever gotten was Peanut. Yeah. And Peanut is not greedy.
And also, like, Owner earned this spot too. He earned it over two other junglers in a pretty brutal competition for that spot. Obviously,
because neither of them are slouches.
Oh no,
both Elm and Cuz are absolutely great junglers with a monstrous history. And Owner still proved that no, I am the best of these 3. So
And I
yeah,
also think
I want
this
to
year
see
we'll
him stay.
see a return to a normal 5 or 6 man roster on T1. Thank
I hope so.
God. Because I don't think we'll see someone swapping in for Faker, Gumayushi, or Carrier. If anyone, it's probably
Hopefully.
going to be Faker. That they're probably going to swap in and out here, honestly, because Faker has a history of always having someone underneath him. Would not shock me if that comes back for like a game or two. But like, I don't know. I just want to see a return to a normalcy in T1 because that was the biggest issue the last 2 years.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what got Koma fired. Honestly,
Yeah.
let's be frank.
Yeah.
That's what got him fired. So
Yes,
like,
it was.
but I also think he learned from that, and he proved that he's still a top tier coach on DK. So hey, that's all we got in the LCK bit. We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be back in a second.